Hey friends, it's me Micah, and this is the Homestead Bandwagon. Today we're looking at a subcompact tractor. This particular tractor is an LS MT122 with a mid-mount mower deck. And rather than doing a review on the machine or the deck, I just want to talk about whether or not it's worth having a mid-mount mower deck on a tractor. I work at a dealership. We sell LS, we also sell Kioti tractors, and we sell a lot of lawnmowers too. We sell Cub Cadet and Bad Boy and Grasshopper. And I sell a lot of lawnmowers. I don't sell a lot of mid-mount mowing deck for tractors. And part of that's on me. I've never really been a believer. So I borrowed this from work. I'm trying it out on the property here, and I'm gonna see if maybe by using it, I become a believer. Now, when we're looking at these, oftentimes what we compare them to is a zero-turn lawnmower. So hold on here. Okay, so here it is, the joy of my life. This is my Cub Cadet zero-turn mower. So in this video, we are going to specifically compare a zero-turn mower versus a mid-mount deck on a tractor. And there's a very good reason for that. If you're gonna just use a regular mower or a push mower on your property, and you can get it done and it doesn't take you a year to do, you probably don't need a mid-mount deck on your tractor. The kind of places you'd want to have a mid-mount deck on your tractors for is bigger properties, right? It just makes the most sense. That's probably why you have a tractor anyway. So we're not going to worry about a standard lawnmower. We're going to worry about a mid-deck on a tractor versus a zero-turn mower, because there are benefits to having both. One of the main benefits to having a zero-turn mower is that zero-turn action. We won't get too deep into the weeds, but it's really efficient. It's the most efficient way that we've invented so far as I know, to go out and mow big areas. And that's why people get them. So there's a lot of cost-benefit analysis going on when people buy mowers. Well, these cost more, but the benefit is you get your work done quicker, which means you're putting less wear and tear on the mower, which means it should last longer. And maybe you'll last longer too, because you're not stinking out there in the driving sleet and rain twice a week, you know, mowing for 6 hours. Maybe you're only out there for 3, because these are a lot more efficient. Whereas a tractor with a mid-mount mower, the benefit people always tell me is it's cheaper. You're already buying a tractor, you're buying the mower deck too. That mower deck is cheaper than a zero-turn, or at least a comparable zero-turn that'll do, you know, heavy-duty work that the mid-deck on a tractor would do. That's probably pretty true. And then, you know, just the efficiency of having one machine that does it all, that's kind of neat. You know, a lot of times the reason we buy a tractor is because it's like a Swiss Army knife. And that's accurate here, right? You have a loader, maybe you got a backhoe, you got a mid mower, you've got a tiller, you've got a box scraper, you've got one machine that'll do all your jobs instead of maintaining 2 machines, right? So those are the top 2 reasons people tell me that they want a mid-mount mower deck on their tractor. So what I'm gonna do is just go out and mow around the property today. This is the first mow of the season. We've got a nice fresh pasture that was planted last year. It's beautiful, it's lush, it's kind of wet. It won't be a problem with this mower. This will power through a lot. There's a ton of power on these mid-mount mowers. But there's a couple things I'll bring up here. First of all, if you're looking for a mid-mount mower deck to replace a brush cutter or a brush hog, ain't gonna happen. Don't do it. That's not what it's made for. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who's gonna say, well, I cleared 20 acres of brush with mine, and now the place is a state park and it's recognized on the National Register. Yeah, sure, I could go out and clear 20 acres with a teaspoon, but it's not the way you're supposed to do it, and it doesn't work that well for most people. So we're looking at this for mowing grass on your property. And again, we're not going to compare it to a standard mower, because if you have a little 42-inch, you know, little riding mower, it takes about an hour to mow half an acre. You're probably going to upgrade from that if you've got a couple acres to mow. So I'd say if we're mowing more than an acre, either this guy or this guy would make the most sense, just from a time standpoint. You don't want to commit your life maybe to mowing. So yeah, we're going to get out there and mow a bit and see how this thing does, and see if it changes my mind, if we're going to go out and buy a second tractor, I guess, with a mid-mount mower. So here we go. Okay, so we've done one mow with the tractor with the mid-mount mower on it. This is kind of like, I guess, the upper pasture. The grass is pretty thick. You can see a kind of a before and after right here. So that grass is about, just short of a foot tall in some spots, so pretty thick. And it did what a mower is supposed to do. It mowed the grass. So the tall grass is now small grass. So that's good. All right, I'm going to keep mowing the other fields here and see how it does. Okay, so we've done some mowing out here, and well, yeah, everything looks like it's been mowed as well in this lower pasture. And this is, you know, an area where having a mid mower on a tractor can be kind of beneficial. Just nice long open spaces, you know, just making long passes. You know, it's fairly efficient. Where it wasn't very efficient was mowing in between all the trees in here. Eventually I just kind of gave up, because trying to loop around these trees and between them, and you're hitting trees with your bucket while you're trying to make a tight turn, it was kind of not fun to mow in there. But you know, if these trees didn't exist, then I guess you could mow in here with ease, or aplomb, so to speak. And then over here, this is more of like a hillside. This is something where it was a little slower to mow, because I basically just had to drive straight up and down this hill. It doesn't look very hilly here, but it's hilly enough. If I was going sideways, you know, like trying to side hill the tractor, it didn't feel very safe. So I'm not going to risk it. I'll just spend the extra time mowing. But having 4-wheel drive and low range on a hillside, really, it's kind of nice. So that's what that is. Well, I'm gonna do a couple more chores and think this thing over, and then come up with a verdict on this machine. Okay, so what was the verdict today using the tractor with the mid mower versus old reliable, the Cub Cadet zero turn? Well, for our property, I'll just say right off the bat, it's not a good match. Our property is so varied. Hills, you know, like you saw, valleys, drop-offs, muddy spots. I thought that the tractor would actually feel a little bit more helpful. But let's talk about hills first. On hills, You can't really side hill with these tractors. You should never side hill with a mower either, but you can kind of get away with it a little bit. When you put one of these small tractors on a side hill, boy, it started getting a little tippy. So I found anytime I had to mow a hill, I would back down and drive back up. It was a very, very slow process. Now, I didn't get stuck, which was nice because we had four-wheel drive. So for muddy places, I liked it, but I'm not mowing the mud anyway. I've built paths here where I can get around the mud with the mower. So it was a non-starter for me. What I didn't like was mowing around trees, mowing around obstacles, just even mowing, parts of pasture that thin out and then widen out. So I spent more time not mowing than mowing at certain parts. And that's always a problem with a standard mower versus a zero turn, is it's not that this is faster at mowing grass, it's that this is slower because you're not mowing grass. You're always, seems like, shuttling over here to get back to this tiny little patch of grass to mow. So it's just frustrating trying to mow around obstacles and objects and mow in funny shaped spaces where maybe you couldn't make that tight turn. That's just frustrating. It took a long time. I've spent as much time out here mowing today as just mowing the back half of our property as I would mowing the whole thing. So it was definitely slower by half, if not more, for us. Now, there's things I liked. I liked that I could be driving along and take that bucket and throw some dead branches in it and move those and throw them away. I like that, we can go from mowing to scooping some mulch and dumping that mulch and messing with the driveway and doing all sorts of tasks one after another really fast. The utility value is really high on this, but for me, that was outweighed by how much time it takes to mow, because we have to mow here a lot for now. Maybe in the future, if we get animals out here eating this grass, hopefully, we won't be mowing as much, but then all I'll really have is some smaller areas, and in small, tight, confined spaces, this is not good. I'd have to take this loader off all the time to fit in smaller spaces, and I was wanging into trees and stuff. It just, for us, again, wasn't good. So, is this something that nobody should buy? No, I think a lot of people would benefit from it. So let's say you've got your tractor and you're kind of parking your place out and you've got nice square or oval places without a bunch of stuff in the middle of them, and you like having those big open green spaces. This is a great mower. It's definitely going to be better than using your little 42-inch rider. You can get baggers for these. They do bag really nicely. They run a powered bagger that runs off the rear PTO. That's sweet. So they bag really, really well. And I don't know about mulching, but I'm sure they'd mulch well too. Now, for soft, delicate areas, again, I don't think it'd be a good idea. I think this guy, if you had it in four-wheel drive, will tear up everything. But if you had it in two-wheel drive, it's heavy, and you maybe put turf tires on it if you're going to use it as a lawnmower, and it'd do fine. I just feel like it's a little heavy if you have wet lawns that you do. But if your lawn is well drained, it's flat, it's not bumpy. The bumps out here just beat me up on this thing. This thing would be great. So I think it's good for a person with a property that's a little bit more tamed, and they're using this as a landscaping machine, which, in all honesty, if you're buying a tractor of this size, you probably are more into just doing landscape maintenance. It makes sense. For us, we're out here conquering the wild, trying to reclaim it after, years of it just kind of doing its thing. Fighting nature is difficult. It beats up a machine. We need a machine much bigger than this anyway. So that's why it wouldn't be a good choice for us in the first place. You shouldn't downsize the tractor you need just to get a mower deck. I'll tell you that much right now. Get a lawnmower, So for us, not a good match, doesn't work for us. And I think a lot of people that buy from me have properties like us that are very, very untamed, haven't been managed for a while. So they're going out there and really, really, really trying to reset a lot of what nature has done. We're always fighting nature. But if you're out there and you got a place that's more parked out, you're just doing landscape maintenance, moving beauty bark, this thing's certainly cheaper than a back surgery. Why not throw a mowing deck on there too? I think they're great. The only thing I would consider is, if the tractor breaks down, tractors are more expensive to repair than lawnmowers? And can you afford to have your lawnmower and your tractor down at the same time for like a week or two, or 3 or 4 if it's in the busy season and you're depending on a mechanic, or 6 or 8? I've had dealers out here who are 12 weeks out for repairs. Can you afford to not have a lawnmower? You know, I just feel like you're putting a lot of wear and tear on these machines. So just consider that, you know, at least if you had a mower and a tractor, you'd at least have one machine to do work with. I don't know, something to think about. But that's neither here nor there. So maybe this will help you make your decision. Maybe it won't. Maybe you're still confused. Sorry about that. Guess I wasted your time. But I hope this was helpful. So yeah, for us, this doesn't make a ton of sense just because I don't think our property's set up for a machine that just needs to do just a nice straightforward mow. You know, we're beating the living tar out of this zero turn as it sits. This poor guy is just falling apart, but this makes the most sense for our property. Just a very efficient mower that I can just beat up and then replace relatively inexpensively in the future. So, all right, we'll see you all around. Be good to each other.